Okay, Melanie Richards, welcome to the Deeper Than Dough podcast. I'm excited to have you as a guest. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So we got connected through Eric Van Horn, and you got connected with him through his podcast. That's actually how I got connected, I think, as well. And then we were on his podcast, and we sold. I need to go check again, but within like the first 6 months, trackably, it was like a few dozen franchises and several hundred thousand in revenue just from being on his freaking podcast, which is so cool that he gave us that opportunity. So, love to start with a little bit of your background, just a few minutes of where you've been and what you're doing now.
Yeah, my background starts in law enforcement. So I graduated from college and moved out to San Diego. I started as a juvenile probation officer in their juvenile hall there for 10 to 15-year-old boys. That was my assigned unit. Worked there for a few years, and us typical Minnesota people, we kind of find our way back for whatever reason. Missed the family, so I transferred back and moved into adult investigations, working in courts, doing pre-sentence investigations for misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor crimes, which included domestic violence, which led me to a Violence Against Women Act grant position with the county. And I developed a caseload of battered women who are coming through the system. And I did that for about 12 years. It was really intense and kind of needed a bit of a creative outlet per se. And so I went to the Aveda Institute in Minneapolis and I studied osteology. And so actually graduated and I was just looking for a spray tan. You can see I'm very pale right now. I don't have a GoGlow, but so it's really difficult for my skin tone to find a natural looking spray tan. And I found a makeup artist that was doing it. She was doing it for about $100, which is a bit much for a probation officer. But when I walked out, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So just started looking into the business as it was then and took it from there.
Okay. And then when did you, and you guys are a franchise system right now, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. When did you guys franchise and where are you guys at in the process?
Yes. Started franchising in technically kicked off around July of 2023. And as of right now, we have 43 territories awarded,
Awesome.
about 11 states. Yeah. So we're moving.
Last year.
Since roughly around September, we awarded our first one.
Okay, awesome. Give me your business now. What have been the pros and cons?
A whole lot. With the law enforcement career, it totaled about 14 years, and it was I am still really passionate about the work and domestic violence in particular, and working with women and children, and so it was very rewarding because it truly is in the position that I was. It was very triage, immediate danger situations. And so I was instrumental in making sure that women and children were safe. And so the reward for that is obviously you feel just, you're giving back, right? The cons, of course, I've gone through losing victims to violence that I've been working with, and going through that was very traumatic, and left me with a feeling of a career that's really bleeding too much into my personal being, of, if Friday at 5 o'clock I'm done, but over the weekend I'm making sure I'm checking the headlines to make sure that my victims are safe. There's been no, homicides, and so all of that, and the reason why I decided to look to something different. I didn't know that I was going to change my career completely at all, but it was a sense of, okay, at that time I was engaged to get married. I knew family was going to be next and that sort of thing. And so bringing that heaviness, I couldn't see myself going much further because I was, when I do things, I go full bore, right? So I'm super passionate about it. And so I just knew that my next phase of life, didn't know what it was going to look like, but I didn't want to bring that heaviness. So I'm really happy about the career that I had and very fulfilled, and moving that into being an entrepreneur, which I was raised by a single mother. She had my sister and I when she was still in high school. So, my upbringing was more of, it wasn't entrepreneurial, but she did work for a manufacturing company. And she started as a data entry, and through her whole career, she ended it with vice president of the company. So watching a woman work that hard, for the three of us. And so I did definitely got that tenacity and the work ethic through that. But, now basically taking my business and running with it, it's just more of a tenacity and a grit that you have to have as an entrepreneur, and just these are problems, but you know what, I'm going to learn, I'm going to move through them. It's just kind of my personality too.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the 14 years because that is very heavy and it needs to be done.
Hmm.
During those 14 years, and I have a buddy that did a lot of the. Did you ever see that or hear about the Sound of Freedom movie that came out?
Absolutely, yes.
Pablo, the character on that, he's based here in Utah. Paulo.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and he talks about how heavy it was for him to go on those kind of, all of those different undercover missions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, are there any, I guess, practices or mindsets or tips or tricks on how you dealt with that? Like, how were you able to, work with someone and see, them pass away or all of
Mm-hmm.
the terrible things that can happen? How did you cope with that during those 14 years?
I the last case that I had that just really kind of set me on my tail a bit. It was so intense. He was stalking her for a good 2 weeks after I had issued a warrant for him, and he did end up finding her on the weekend. My worst case scenario, and he murdered her grandfather, her mother, and her. And I realized at that moment, because it was towards the tail end of, um, you know, am I able to do this one more time? And I knew at that time I was never, I can't even think about it, right? And so I did seek resources for PTSD because of that, because every time I would start talking about the case, which I knew I would have to testify to, and all of that, it was immediate tears. So you have to seek outside help sometimes and just say, hey, I need to work through this in some manner. And so now they did that. I don't know, where they put like two buzzers in your hands and they change the path in your brain of when you think about those memories. Somehow
Okay,
yeah, I
like
don't know what
the
they call it, but
rapid eye movement, something. I've
yes,
done
it
it
was
before.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really did work. It changes the pathway when I think about the memories, or when I think about it, it doesn't trigger an immediate like response for me.
And
But
they were doing buzzers in your hand. I've seen eye movement. I mean, they're just doing this to cross
mhm.
left and right brain or tapping.
It's the
Uh,
same thing, that tapping thing, but they put these two like buzzers in my hand.
okay. Was there was it hard to admit to yourself that you needed to go get help? And I've gone through the same thing, and I will see a therapist. And that first time, I was like, "How do you even find a freaking therapist?" And then when I do, like, this is going to be awkward, and like, um, did you experience that? And if so, how did you overcome that? And what would your recommendation be to listeners that are maybe thinking, "Do I need a therapist or
Right. Yeah. That was the first time where I knew that obviously if I'm absolutely sobbing at the trigger of anything, there's definitely something I need to address here, especially since it's in my career and I'm still moving forward every single day and working with victims in violence. I reached out. I must have like Googled PTSD or something, because I couldn't put my finger on it, but this was what was happening with me. I'm very, the way I think about things, I'm very open to all kinds of different thoughts and ideas. And so when I went into it, it was definitely, when they put those buzzers in your hand, you're just like, okay, what is this quackery? What is going on here? But so you just, have to go into it and with faith. And that these people know what they're doing. Yeah, obviously, there's a ton of research in PTSD and how different ways and modalities of how to work with it. But I think that everybody at some point, if you're going through something, you can recognize that you're kind of different now, right? Like something is affecting you and you're not responding to happiness the same way. You're not responding to joy the same way. And just really settle in on it's okay to get help. we all need it at some point. Life is rough, and we all run into certain roadblocks and holes we fall in. And I've always been extremely open about talking about these things, and caring for others too that are going through something. And it's just, it's life. And as soon as you get real, raw and honest about it, that's when you can, affect change and help and support for
Yeah,
people.
I'm a big proponent for therapy. I mean,
Mhm.
even if you don't have a PTSD, for me,
Yes.
just running a business and like, because what therapy's done for me is you have your business advisors and it's all
Hmm.
dollar signs, right?
Hmm.
But it's like, well, that's as humans, we don't really want dollars. We're after emotions that we feel like those dollars are going to bring
Right.
us. So the therapist allows you to kind of cut through the bullshit of like, okay, well, you want money, but why do you want the money? And
Hmm.
for me, it just it's been so helpful on a business standpoint. Like, oh, I don't want to sell. We're raising capital, and they want this valuation. I want this valuation. It's like, and and then you talk with therapists, and it's like, well, so what are we talking about? Like, how's that going to change your life a percent or two? And you're like, oh, it's not. Okay, just get it freaking done and move on.
Right.
So you can feel better because again, it comes down to that emotion. So
Hmm.
um, that's awesome. Do you still go back and do therapy either on a regular basis or kind of here and there? Do you? Yeah, I guess where are you at with that?
Yeah, I actually did go back to, I went through a really tough divorce about 5 years ago now, and definitely after, I when I left the marriage until the divorce was final was about 2.5 years. And so through that, that's when I chose to definitely, I checked right into therapy, and made sure I had like a grounding, a place where it's safe, and a neutral space. And this particular therapist specialized in women who are also in business, and so I had that touch point too, as well as kind of unraveling the loss of a marriage, and kids and all of that. So yeah, I 100% continue to check back in with therapy as I need it.
Um, Awesome. Uh, Again, I think that regardless of what we're carrying, like
Mhm.
everybody should be doing that, getting help in whatever capacity they can. And that's amazing that you're doing that. Is there anything else that you're doing, um, any habits or anything that you're doing in order to stay proactive with mental health?
It's kind of funny. My brain is like many people who are doing what we're doing, is constant. Like I have one of those brains that is just like a hamster wheel. I'm thinking at all times about different things, it's everything. So I have started doing puzzles. So I have a huge puzzle table next to my desk. And at times and it's the only time where my brain literally shuts off from any of these random thoughts about all these things I need to do, all of these touch points, to just focus in on a puzzle. It sounds crazy, but it is so centering for me. And I can focus on one thing and not think about the billion other things that my brain wants to think about. So that's just these little things that I've done, because starting with Front Street and franchising, I used to have, because I used to run my businesses very executive, right? I wasn't in the shops or anything like that. So I was living a great chill life. And then, you kick into franchising and going at the speed that we're going. I'm just like, this is a gauntlet, like this is nuts. So it's, for me, that's just been one thing that I've added, because it's intense. It's intense what we're going through right now.
It is. I like that a lot. And I think that that's a way better. I'm going to start doing that because my kids would love doing that with me.
Yes.
Instead, I play Balloon Tower Defense 6 on my phone. That's the like if I'm just like overwhelmed, I'm like this stupid
Yep.
mindless tower defense, whatever. I'm using monkeys and shooting balloons.
Yep.
But it's something I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna let go of everything else. But I think a puzzle would be much more healthy because then I can bring in family. And that's fun. That's just
And
something
you
I
get
have.
that sense of like success and completing things, because that's what we're all, like our personalities are about. And it's just, so you get that sense of like, oh, look at how far I got on this puzzle. And they're hard.
Yeah. Um okay, so now we're in you have GoGlow, right?
Right.
Um how has that been? like going, you just started touching on it, you know, kind of being an executive before franchising to now franchising. Um, Talk to me about the joy, the fulfillment that comes with that, but also the stress and managing that.
Yeah. God, where do I even start? I'll start with the joy. The joy is honestly, I have felt there's a few things when I think about joy as in my work world right now. Number one, the partners as far as with Front Street with Jeffrey Herr and Eric and Jim having it was the first time I ever truly ever showed anybody my financials to get an opinion from or anything like that, right? So when they were doing their due diligence and digging into every corner of my GoGlow life, it was I was just really happy at the end of it, and they said, look what you built. You did a really good job, And coming from somebody that's law enforcement, like I laugh and I'm like, every single economics or accounting class that I straight out of liberal arts college to go take in business college, I failed, right? Because my brain just doesn't think like that. However, when I now have a business and I'm so passionate about it, I can dial in right away on decisions and what I need to do. So to have that validation from them was a huge moment for me. And being partnering with the caliber of group that they are was is definitely fabulous. And then still having their advisory and being able to go to them with things and help. They're helping me build a structure that we're going to need 3 years down the road, 5 years, right? So we've got a strong structure, and so we can lean into that as we go, rather than just trying going like pants on fire and then trying to fix things backwards, right? So that's been really great. And honestly, being around other entrepreneurs, so people when they come in and we meet them for confirmation day, just loving that spirit of people who still believe in business and still believe in being in their community and building something. Those are rare people, and to be around them is just it's like my lifeblood now.
I like that a lot. And talk about the product that you guys offer and how does that, I mean, you kind of touched on it already, how you felt the first time that you had it. You're like, that was
Mhm.
$100, but man, I came out and I just felt better. How does that, I guess incorporate to the mission of behind what you're doing?
Yeah, and it's I don't know the word for it, but people don't think obviously are going to associate a spray tan with anything life changing, right? So, but at the same time, feeling good in your skin and feeling confident, you there's very little things that you can do that give you that feeling, and I feel that with GoGlow, that's what you feel like when you come out of it, right? And you're just it is a sense of you look good, who doesn't want to look 10 pounds lighter because you get a nice glow about you. And it's just a very good feeling. And minus that, it's the ingredients, all of the healthy antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, all these things that we put into our solution. So it's a skin treatment at the same time. So, with the brand and how we make people feel, especially, right now our clientele is generally majority of women. Men are catching on. You guys are a little bit behind on a lot of things, but you're getting there. But and just seeing happy people, and that's another thing with our brand. It's very empowering, and I have a lot of just it's really beloved by our clientele and our customers and that are really invested in our journey and how we've built and grown. And so it's just really fun. Our clients are very supportive and loving towards us.
And I think that's often overlooked, like the importance of feeling good, because the counter argument is like, well, just accept yourself how you are, and it's like, you do it first. you
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
I'm a
definitely.
big proponent of that, and I've embraced it because before I kind of went back and forth, and I mean, I was just showing you before, I got a hair transplant.
Hmm.
Um, I've done laser hair removal to line this up so I don't have to shave.
Looks
That was
fabulous.
freaking awesome. I was 310 pounds. I got a gastric sleeve surgery and I lost 100 pounds. And all of those things, I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to do whatever makes me feel better in my skin. And
Mhm.
then I can make a bigger impact on my community, my family, my business. And those little things like having a tan, if that makes you feel better, like
Mhm.
freaking embrace it and just go do it and feel good. So
Yeah.
I love that empowerment that you guys are offering to all of your clients, and then also obviously your franchisees going also get to feel part of that. Like
Mhm.
watch these people walk out, they looking good, and that was because of me.
Right.
So
Yeah. And I think that it's a personal journey. It's a personal choice, and everything's personal. And so I get I'll get counter defensive about people who say, "Well, why do you need that?" You're insecure because you think you need Botox or it's just like none of your business, really. I want to feel good in my skin, and everybody has the right to do that.
yeah, I think that's kind of again, I go back and forth, and I'm like, so if I work out, is that because I don't feel good if I'm not muscly? It's like
Right.
I just that's what I like, and it makes me feel good. So is working out bad because I want to change my appearance?
Yeah.
I don't think so. And how's
Mhm.
that different than Botox?
Right.
Maybe a little different, but fundamentally, I think it's changing your appearance so you can feel better, and however you want to do that, go do it.
Hmm.
So, you talked about a few hard times, and so we don't need to revisit a ton if you don't want to. But is there, if you could pinpoint like a very hard time? Well, I guess we kind of, yeah, we'll scratch all this. The question, yeah, you've already answered it because you went through the that homicide and then getting the therapist. So I'm gonna skip that part out. When you were speaking about that hard time in your life with that homicide over the weekend, if you were to go, if you could kind of wave a magic wand and go back and erase that weekend from your life, would you? If so, why? If no, why not?
As it relates to my life, no. I think that even traumatic things, even horrible, horrific things, um, make a mark in you, and you get to decide how deep that mark is, or what color, or what are you going to do with that mark. That particular moment in my life set set me on where I am today, right? And so you think about even with divorce or loss of anyone really, um, is that your path? And I believe it is. I believe that we have a path and that we all need to walk down it. And I am who would I be if I didn't have traumatic things happen, right? That's where you grow. That's where you find your strength. And then through that strength that you're like, oh gosh, I just picked myself up from something so, terrible like that. Then you get confidence, and then you get confidence to go do something different. And that's what my path did. And so I'm truly somebody that it's like, okay, I didn't want to go through a lot of what I've been through in my life. But at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, it made me a pretty badass person too. So it's just what path God set you on, and you need to walk it.
And it's also a very big indication of like how you're viewing the past. Are you viewing it with regret and you would change it, or are you viewing it with gratitude of look who I became because of that, which
Right.
is I think is absolutely beautiful for that. So you were mentioning a little bit, you right when you were coming on with Front Street, kind of that satisfaction that you felt for other people to compliment and say like, wow, look what you've done. So most entrepreneurs, it's very hard to do that. What advice do you have for us so we can do that more often and be proud of our accomplishments more often rather than just next goal, next goal, next goal?
Yeah. I think that's something I'm personally training my brain now to really appreciate what I've accomplished. I am one of those people that is like, okay, next goal, next goal, next. And I'm coming up on 50 this year. So, I think that different birthdays like that kind of make you start to think like, oh, okay, let's look back on some things. So for me, gratitude and just appreciating the things that I have accomplished, and sometimes it is odd to hear somebody tell my story, right? And I'm just like, oh wow, that's pretty wild because I'm moving, right? So it takes a real training, I think, with some personalities, and I'm one of them, to slow down and to really pay respect to some of the things that I've accomplished and things that I've been through and moving forward from. So I don't know if I can give advice because I am still working on that. Having grace for myself and moving through this process.
I like that, and I like the honesty in the answer because I'm the same way. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to give me the answer. Turns out none of us have the answer. Damn
No.
it. Um, Going back kind of to the joy and fulfillment, is there anything that you're focusing on now or that you would like to focus on more to spread more joy and fulfillment to those around
Yeah, I think that, to be truly honest, right now is a very intense it's an intense time of building for GoGlow and for myself. And when I came onto Front Street and Jeff told me literally, he's like, "These are probably going to be the hardest 2 years of your life," and I was just like, "Well, you haven't met my entire life yet, but we can go there." But he's just like, "This is a grind, and this is just something that the strong make it through." And so I am in a mindset right now of knowing the moment, the chapter, the moment, the whatever of my life, that this is the hard part. This is going to be hard, Mel. And so I have my team that works around me, and we really work hard at making sure that we have touch points with each other in the sense of how are you doing? Okay, go get a massage. Like we've had the most intense day ever. Take the rest of the day. Don't care. Like just really caring for each other. And I think you have to have a team like that, because I don't know that two people could make it through this insane growth
you?
and
Yeah,
keep up with your mental health. Really.
it is a ton
Hmm.
to, I mean, just that all the things you have to do, but also like the weight on your shoulders. Like, what if I don't do it? How many lives is that affecting?
Hmm.
And being able to move forward despite that and just keep going and keep going and keep going. Um, if we fast forward, I don't know, 5 years, whatever, and you've reached all your goals and you have a ton of money in the bank account, how would your day-to-day life look different?
I view money. I would Okay, so the way I was raised and moving on through welfare, food stamps, single mom, right? So money to me is not. I know that I've been really, really poor before, right? Had nothing. So I'm not afraid of it. So I don't have that relationship where I need to, money, 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 money. I think that I do things I love, and I make sure that I'm working the hardest and the best at it. And the money to me is just a measure of, hey, you did that, right? It's just a metric to me for success. Now, don't get me wrong, right? Money's great. Like it makes life a little bit easier, obviously. But I think that I can see my own timeline, and having money and being secure, however how much that is. I don't think that it changes me too much, other than a little easier breathing, right? You're like, because we've all been through some times in business where you're just like, holy cash problems. So I think that money for me, it's a little bit of a topic because I I I don't measure it with my life type of
I
thing.
like that because it has no control over you, especially if you don't have the fear of losing it. And
Right.
I've heard, like most of us, we live in fear that we don't have enough. And then so you work and work and you get money, and then now you're scared to lose it. And then you go most of your life in fear.
Hmm.
And I'm comfortable not having anything. I think that's awesome. I also grew up single mom. There was 9 of us that she was trying to raise.
Mm.
And so we went through all that, the food stamps and the welfares
Yep.
and growing up in Utah, there's the Mormon religion, and they took care
Mhm.
of us. And that was great as well. But for me, it was I need to never feel this again, and I need money, 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 and then I became obsessed with it, and then I had to undo it. Um,
Right.
Anyways, it's funny the different relationships that we have, but I think it ultimately comes down to having a very healthy relationship is not being have any fear around whether you have it or whether you don't, or you have it and you're going to lose it, or any of that. It's just that's part of life, but it's not, it isn't life. So
Right.
anyways, I really like that answer. Last question for you is, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Um, I I love this question. Um, I I look to my sons. I have an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old, and just like myself, growing up listening to my mom talk about business, I wasn't truly aware of how it was going to affect me as an adult. But that's where you learn your work ethic. That's where you learn your values. What kind of a human are you going to be walking through this earth? And knowing that these little ears are listening and watching me succeed, and they're so very proud. It's that is a really fat like such a solid feeling as a mother. And so my legacy is just I want to make sure that like my kids know, everyone around knows I did the best I could, right? I was honest, I worked hard, and I built something for myself.
Appreciate it. You've been an amazing guest and very open, and I appreciate that's helped me out personally. Congratulations on your success as well. Again, you need it. I'll text you because now I have your phone number, and I'm going to text you. Hey, remember,
I
you're
love
crushing.
that.
But I appreciate the openness. I mean, that really, your vulnerability gives permission for other people to be vulnerable, and your ability to say, "Hey, I need help" as well. It's like freaking everybody does. Let's just stop pretending like we're strong and we could do this on our own, and let's all just figure it out together. So, anyways, I really appreciate that. Where can our listeners connect with you?
They can connect with me at mel@goglow.co. Our website is goglow.co, not .com. But LinkedIn, Instagram, we're everywhere.
Okay, and then where are your locations at so we can go get some Go Glows?
Yes. So we have our corporate locations are in Minnesota, Chicago, and we just opened Cape Coral in Florida. And franchise openings right now are in Frisco, Texas, Houston, Texas, soon to be opening in Birmingham, or I'm sorry, Rochester Hills, Michigan. They're coming online next week, as well as Winston, North Carolina.
Salt Lake here in two
Salt
weeks.
Lake, I mean, I can wink, wink, but we'll be very soon.
Awesome.
Really.
Melanie, you're awesome. Let's stay in contact. And anything I can do to help you, please reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.